It's February 5th, 2025, and we've got ourselves a double, maybe even a triple whammy on the way in terms of winter storms. Things are picking up out there. Starting today, we've got an ice storm underway. That's right, ice storm warnings in Pennsylvania, down through Maryland, West Virginia, and portions of Virginia in the purple there. We've also got winter weather advisories from Boston all the way back through New York, Pennsylvania, down into Delaware. This goes into the Ohio Valley, back into the upper Midwest, and even all the way back here into the southern plains. So we've got a very big storm that's making its way across the U.S. over the next 3 days, and it is going to cause at least moderate impacts over here, especially in the ice storm area. This is where I'm concerned about some potential power outages, folks. As far as the ice storm goes, it's going to be impacting the mid-Atlantic and northeast and the eastern portion of the Ohio Valley. I think that a lot of people are just going to get a glaze of ice, especially if you're up there near Detroit, Cleveland. If you're east of the Appalachians over there towards Philadelphia, I think that this is going to be a quick shot of snow, a little bit of ice. It's nothing too much to worry about. Now, don't get me wrong, even a glaze of ice is going to be dangerous, especially if you have to be out on the roads. But right there in the darker orange area, that's where I think that we could see some really hazardous travel and also some power outages. So get ready for that. Also, over here on the Winter Storm Severity Index, we've got elevated indices over here in the high Sierra. We're going to have a ton of snow over the next 3 days in the highest elevations of California over here, creating extreme impacts on the roads. And that extends up into the Cascades a little bit as well, as this is storm number 2. Okay, so this is storm number 1. We'll talk more about it. Storm number 2 is coming across. It'll also impact the eastern United States. And then there's even a storm number 3 that we have to talk about. But let's take it one storm at a time. Here's what our ice storm is going to be looking like Thursday, February 6th around 2 a.m. We're going to see heavy icing happening in the higher elevations of the central Appalachian Mountains in Pennsylvania down into the Maryland area, West Virginia, northern Virginia. We're going to see light icing occurring in southern Michigan, northern Indiana, and northern Ohio. We might have a couple of claps of thunder up there near Cleveland around this time while it's sleeting or while it's freezing raining. So keep an eye out for that. We're all snow up here in the UP of Michigan up into portions of Ontario, but watch what happens over here in the mid-Atlantic. I think the heaviest icing will be occurring around 4 to 6 a.m. on Thursday morning. This is where around Hagerstown, Cumberland, I think that this is where we've really got to be worried about some power outages and some extremely dangerous conditions on the road. And even though it's not going to be a full-on ice storm for the entire duration in places like Scranton, for example, or Philadelphia, like I was talking about earlier, it's going to start off as a really heavy burst of snow with some sleet and some freezing rain, and that is going to lead to a very treacherous morning commute on Thursday. Look at this. This is 6 a.m. We're seeing heavy snow moving into New York City, still icing back there in south central Pennsylvania, and it's just looking like an absolute mess. We even expect to see sleet in the Baltimore, D.C. area around this time. Remember, most people are going to pick up around a glaze of ice, but I think a half inch of ice or more is possible around State College in Harrisburg, and then once again down towards Cumberland and Hagerstown. That's where I'd be most concerned about the actual ice storm potential here. Make sure you've got the generator gassed up. Make sure you're ready for at least a couple of days without power, because it is possible with this kind of storm. Heavy shot of snow is going to move through New York. It'll be raining though by 10 a.m. on Thursday. Connecticut, Rhode Island, Boston, you're getting heavy snow at noon Thursday. It's going to be done more than likely by 3 or 4 p.m. This is going to be a quick inch or two for most people, maybe a little bit more than that in the higher elevations of the Adirondacks up towards the White Mountains. For the most part, the snow aspect of this one isn't very impressive. It's going to be the ice on the south side. Also, speaking of the south side or the warm part of this storm, we're going to have some severe thunderstorms today in Kentucky and Tennessee, maybe into Ohio as well. We've got a marginal risk of severe weather for February 5th, and that's got a little 2% probability of seeing a tornado in there as well. 2% chance right in here, Bowling Green, Nashville, back towards Jackson, Tennessee, almost up to Louisville. Very, very unlikely that we see a tornado today, but it wouldn't be surprising to see 1 or 2 brief ones, especially around the Bowling Green area as the storms move up to the north and east today. As far as the severe storms go, here's what that radar could look like this evening as we go into the 8 or 9 p.m. central time frame. You can start to see some storms moving into the Lexington and Somerset areas. These are going to be moving really fast, potentially dropping some hail, even over into my neck of the woods over here between Huntington and Pikeville. We're going to have some storms tonight, lightning, thunder, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be a big heavy rainmaker as well. But But here's what's interesting. Some of the stronger storms don't actually get going until 6 a.m. Thursday morning. Look at this. We're going to have a pretty strong storm or area of energy moving through the Somerset area over towards southeastern Kentucky around 6 or 7 a.m. And the storms are not going to be over until probably around noon on February 6th. So that's what that progression looks like. Very slight tornado chance, hail, a couple gusty winds. That's going to be the main thing that we have to worry about with this. All right, what's next? Once again, after we get storm number 1 out of our hair, I want to kind of focus your attention over here on California. Thursday into Friday, it's going to be snowing like crazy in the high Sierra over here in California. We're going to have lots of moisture coming up from the Pacific, causing some flooding maybe in the Central Valley. And this is going to be just another atmospheric river type situation that's going to last at least through Friday. By that point, we are going to see the storm traverse over the Great Basin into the Intermountain West, over the Rockies. Heavy snow is going to be possible in Wyoming, all the way over into South and North Dakota as we get into 10 p.m. on February 7th. What happens next? You know it. It's going to link up with some moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and lead to another storm over here on the East Coast. And it looks very similar to the one that we're dealing with right now. However, it looks a little bit more juiced up, looks a little bit more good, I guess, if you are looking at it from a meteorological standpoint of strength and overall power of the storm. This one looks like it's going to be a little bit more of a doozy than the one that we're dealing with over the next couple of days. This is Saturday, February 8th. Looks like another potential ice storm for south central Pennsylvania down into Virginia. It looks like heavy snow in southern Ontario. This looks like a decent snowmaker for the state of Michigan as well right now. And it becomes a little bit more uncertain the farther out into the future we go. Well, once again, I don't like to hype things up. There are certain models that are showing a blizzard, as always. We're not going to show those because there's no point. But this averaging model that we're looking at here, the GEFS ensembles, shows a pretty decent hit for heavy snow in New England for Saturday and Sunday. So I would just about bet my bottom dollar that we're going to be talking about a snowstorm, not an ice storm per se, for the Northeast with this storm. I think that we're going to have an ice aspect, but I think we're going to be mostly focused on the snow as we go into this weekend. And I would be watching out in Boston, down to New York City, up into upstate New York and that general vicinity for probably one of the more impactful snowstorms of the year, or maybe even of the past couple of years. Of course, we're still too far out to talk too much about it, but that's what's happening there. And the Weather Prediction Center is on the same page. We've got a 70% chance of significant winter precipitation from upstate New York all the way down into central Pennsylvania, over towards the New York City metro, into New England. This is just really high confidence in a winter storm for 4 days out. So this is day 4. Pretend like if this was a severe weather outlook, pretend like this is a slight risk and this is an enhanced, if that helps this make any more sense to you. So we've got an enhanced risk essentially of a major winter storm over here in the Northeast as we go into the weekend. Of course, as we get closer to this one, I'm going to start talking about snow totals and all that kind of stuff. But right now, it's just a signal. We'll update you tomorrow with more information. But here's another thing, all right? Been talking about a triple whammy. Well, where's the third whammy, Ryan? Well, here it is. Day 7 on the WPC probability outlook here. We've got a 50% probability of seeing a significant winter storm from the mountains of North Carolina all the way up into the mid-Atlantic and back into the New York City metro and southern New England once again. This one looks like it's going to be the kind of storm that's a classic low pressure center that rides up the coast and potentially causes a major impactful winter storm for places like Washington, D.C., Richmond, all the way down into maybe even the Asheville, North Carolina area, up towards New York City, the I-95 corridor up there. This one has a big potential to be what we call a Big Daddy snowstorm on this channel. But again, it's 7 days out. Things are going to change. I don't want to tell you too much about like what could happen because we don't really know. But this is really confident. This is a very strong signal for something happening out here on February 11th and 12th of next week. So we're going to be watching this one like a hawk. I'm going to have daily videos at least for the next 7 days. And this might be the big one of the year. Another thing to watch out for is since we're seeing so much cold air trying to return back to the southeastern United States, and it's fighting all of the warm air that's been kind of compiling sailing down here in the southeast. Whether it's rain or snow or whatever it is, we are going to see above average precipitation over the next 10 days for the southern and southeastern United States, especially between February 10th and February 14th. This is going to bring about maybe some flooding, especially in the Tennessee Valley, Dixie Alley, and places like that. And then, of course, the farther north you go, the more we flirt with ice and snow being a part of that problem as well. And that's all the weather talk I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you come back tomorrow. We're going to have all kinds of juicy updates for you on these upcoming major winter storms, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Whoop.